everyone. Today we are going over an episode of Unsolicited Fatties Talk Back. This is the Happy New Year episode, and we know how many fat acceptance people feel about New Year's resolutions, especially weight loss resolutions. So, without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. I fully expect this to be an episode that we fully cover. But as per usual with going as we go forward with these episodes, we're going to do like a sample version of about the first 20 to 30 minutes. And if it's not very interesting, we'll just move on. If they do start talking about food for no reason before they like actually get into the general point, then I'll skip over that as much as I can. But without further ado, okay, let's go ahead and get into this.
Hi, and welcome back to Unsolicited Fatties Talk Back, the podcast where fat people talk back to fatphobic bullshit in the workplace. I'm one of your co-hosts, Mikey Mercedes.
Hi, I'm Jordan Underwood.
I'm Brian Guffey.
I'm Caleb Luna.
I'm Deshaun Harrison, and we're the Fatties.
Yeah.
Yes. This episode, we'll be talking about a recent write-in to the Ask a Manager advice column, which is run by Allison Green, who aims to help folks navigate their jobs, including those moments where fat phobia and diet culture become something inescapable in the workplace. This specific write-in has a little bit of everything: toxic startup culture, weight loss disguised as a team-building exercise, and more, which we'll unpack later. But first, Caleb is going to introduce our first segment. Passing it along to you, Caleb.
So this episode is going to be released right around New Year, so we thought it would be cute to go around and talk about our favorite New Year's traditions, which I don't actually have any. I have at times been in community and relationship with people who did. So I've definitely eaten black-eyed peas and greens on New Year's Day to invite in wealth and quote-unquote good health. But that's not necessarily something I practice on my own. I don't have a lot of traditions or celebrate the holidays, as we've kind of mentioned on this podcast. But yeah, that's me. What about you, Brian? Do you have any favorite New Year's traditions?
I think the only real New Year's tradition I have is counting down to New Year's, and then doing the Happy New Year's, well, if you're dating somebody, a Happy New Year's kiss, and then usually going straight to bed. Not up late, not doing anything too much. I do definitely take a moment to reflect around New Year's, the last day or the first day of the next year, about what the last year was like. Probably make a post on social media, just talking about how my year was. It's really a moment for me to reflect on what the last year was like and what I'm hoping for in the next year. I try to stay away from any resolutions or anything like that.
Do you watch the Times Square countdown thing? Or
I have in the past, but not often anymore. It's mostly just counting down to the time, but not watching the whole thing, because especially you never know what those performances are going to be like.
Very true.
I do remember the one year that Don Lemon got super drunk.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It was beautiful. It's so beautiful. That was the turning point of Don Lemon in the media, I really think.
Oh, he didn't change.
All right. So while this thankfully isn't about food, it's also not terribly interesting. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep listening to it to see if there's anything worth commenting on that comes up. I don't really expect there to be, but for the sake of thoroughness, I'm gonna go ahead and listen to it. You guys don't have to though, so we will be skipping until we get to a more relevant part. Um, but since it's been put up there and New Year's is a couple of months away, uh, do you guys have New Year's traditions? I personally don't, not anymore. My family doesn't we've really kind of oriented ourselves to kind of look forward, so we don't really like the acknowledgement of necessarily another year passing and kind of reflecting on everything that happened in the year. It's not that we don't like the reflection, but viewing everything in like the past year just feels like you're experiencing that loss of time. And um we just don't typically care for it. We do love making New Year's resolutions though. So that's us. Sometimes when I was younger, we used to stay up and watch the fireworks and stuff. Now we try to go to bed, but my neighbors are fucking assholes and will shoot off fireworks even though it's not even legal to do it in our city, but they will set off fireworks until 2 in the fucking morning. I hate them. And my dog in the meantime is absolutely terrified the entire time. Like it's a nightmare. I don't it's the my neighbors have made me hate New Year's Eve. Not because of anything else but their stupid fucking fireworks. All right, so I listened to all of their stuff. None of them have like very strong New Year's resolutions. They ended up talking about the difference of goal versus manifestation, which whatever. Um, it just what not my thing. But we are 24 minutes into this hour and 17-minute podcast. Normally I would stop it here, but since I literally have like you guys have had all of 5 minutes worth of material so far. We're going to go ahead and listen to a little bit more, but they are finally getting into the meat of the episode. And honestly, this isn't even a matter of them being fat acceptance or not. This is just my general advice for anyone who's doing a podcast. If you're going to do this sort of thing, where you have this kind of icebreaker segment before you get into like the meat of what you're going to talk about, try to keep it to like 5 minutes. Like try to keep it really short. And I think part of the issue is that there's so many hosts that that's basically impossible. But genuinely, even if this were something that I was personally interested in, like this was a topic that I wanted to engage with on a buy-in level, like I'm a supporter of it or whatever, they would lose me with how much they just talk about nothing for like the first 20 minutes of each episode. They really need to work on that if they come back, because it's these nothing burger conversations that don't really go anywhere and is mostly them just agreeing with each other or talking about something really mundane isn't interesting to listen to. This needs to be edited down to just highlights of the conversation or something, because this does not work even on a an interest level. Like if I was a real big supporter of fat acceptance, listening to them talk about New Year's resolutions, or not New Year's resolutions, but New Year's traditions, and then the difference between a goal and the manifestation and why they focus on that would kind of lose me, because when I come into something, I want to focus on that topic. And for it to take 24 minutes to get there is insane to me. But let's go ahead and start listening to the meat of this episode.
Be having this conversation. So Deshawn, do you want to read the column? It's a long one, so let's get into it.
Yes.
Oh, brother.
Oh boy. Let's do it. I'm
Okay.
ready.
A reader writes, "We're back in the office responsibly and safely," LOL, as if that's true, "and different departments have started team rebuilding exercises to make up for lost bonding time. My division lead decided on 75 Hard as our team building exercise. 75 Hard is a program that includes a diet and exercise regimen and some lifestyle changes and philosophies that are medically unsound and flawed. Also, didn't we just go through a pandemic? Aren't we still going through a pandemic? Wasn't that hard enough? The one palatable part of the reset is to read self-help and business books, so I emailed the team this. Thanks for the invite, but I'm not comfortable with this program and don't feel it would be a beneficial experience for me. I'd be happy to participate in the joint reading section so long as the reading material has some positivity behind it. And then this person inserts recommendations for books. Um, the response was, oh, it's not supposed to be a positive experience, blah, blah, blah. I stood my ground politely, and my manager later hinted to the division that not participating in team building exercises would be negatively reflected in our yearly reviews. He then said we should bring in a doctor's note if we wanted to be excused. No. Other people on my team who don't want to participate are staying relatively quiet, but I think enough is enough. In the past, my department has done habit resets before, holding each other accountable with obnoxious reminders that really skirt the limits of ableism and bullying. It's a startup that doesn't really have what passes for HR. Instead, my laptop is jumping all over the place. Instead, they do peer mediation, which is a nightmare. The company president slash owner is a relatively level-headed woman, but should I escalate this that high up, great grand boss? There's a lot going on that I think necessitates the need for an HR department. This just highlights it. Part of me thinks it's time to cut bait. I don't know if that's supposed to be cut back, but it says cut bait. But honestly, this particular job is a major resume builder to a great freelance career, so I should probably hang out for a while. That's the end of the column.
So before we get on to anything, I actually looked up 75 hard. And from the looks of it, even the Cleveland Clinic can acknowledge that it's not a program that's advisable for everyone to just go in without any sort of like doctor monitoring. It's not, looking at it myself, it's not the most extreme that I've seen, but if you started out kind of being like couch potato fried food, not exercising very much, it's a high jump to take part in this. I would not recommend it personally if I were orchestrating some sort of team building stuff. It's not something that I would advise, um mostly because it's a little rigid, and given that it's meant to this team building exercise is meant to cover a wide scope of people. Um, I think it would be reasonable to do if you made some modifications, or in all honesty, like I don't think that the nutrition plan thing is something I want my employer to know about, and my exercise routine isn't necessarily something I want my uh employer to know about, but like you could potentially have, hey, a team building exercise, let's all go for a walk, let's all engage in this fitness class, or whatever. I think there's some ways that certain aspects of the 75 hard that could be done as a team, and then if anyone wanted to, they could take the other parts with it. That's, but the saying like, no, you must engage in this one. Also, is this happening on company time? Am I being paid for it? Because if not, like, fuck off. In all honesty, that's kind of my thing. Like, if I'm not being paid for it, I understand that's a team building exercise, but if you want team building to happen, I need to be paid for it because I'm not doing team building on my own time. And I think to make these people participate in this, when even like certain, like this is the Cleveland Clinic that I'm looking at, you guys won't be able to see it on my screen, is even saying that it's not like a one size fits all program. To say that, hey, you need a doctor's note to opt out of it is a little extreme, and I think they're opening themselves up for potential lawsuits, in all honesty, because if you're mandating this to be mandatory, and it doesn't sound like they have a physician to check up on everyone, and they're requiring people to participate in it and requiring a doctor's note to get out of it, when like the way that they could implement this could be like in its most extreme, or it could be a little bit more lax. I don't, it's just I don't like this. I don't like this. I actually agree. It's not even a matter of the person taking part in nutrition or exercise or not. It's the fact that the employer is trying to, or the manager is trying to implement this, mandate this, make this required without any consideration for potential medical issues that could arise from this. It's irresponsible, and I honestly would escalate it because it's opening the employer up to a lawsuit for, like, should anyone have medical issues that result from participating in this because they couldn't get out of it because the doctor may not necessarily have anything that says concretely, yeah, they can't participate in this. This is like, I would escalate it. I would take it higher up. Just do so professionally and do so with facts. Like, research this and point out where potential issues could happen for this, and frame it in a way that it would be detrimental to the company, because that's the only point that they're going to care about. They're not going to care about you. They're going to care about the company. So that would be my takeaway from that.
What are our thoughts? Who would like to start? I think is more appropriate because this is wow.
The first thing that it reminds me of is is that episode. Okay, I don't know if everyone's watched The Office. I know it's like a bad show, but like, okay, there's the episode where they all do like an office-wide weight loss thing, and they all get like really sick from it. Um, and like, or not all of them, but like some people got really sick from it, obviously, which like makes sense because that's what happens. But that's just where I don't know. There's no reason that I said that except for that. That's what it reminded me of, and I just think it's like wild that office places do this.
Yeah, I'm just really, really. I guess I shouldn't be surprised because I see things like this, kind of like this, even at my own company sometimes, even if they're not quite as pointed as this one really is with a specific program and everything. But I find it really, like, deeply problematic and exploitative that not participating in a program like this would be a condition for like poor performance on your resume because it has nothing to do with the actual work of the job. And it's one of the.
No, I agree with him on there too. The fact that I would incur, it's essentially a penalty for not participating in something that is clearly like haphazardly being enforced, because it just sounds so poorly planned. There's no mention of a physician, like a company, like checkups while participating in this program, when it looks not extreme, but moderate, but like difficult enough that it's not an inclusive health program. uh Especially if these are mostly like office workers that sit at a desk a lot of the time. Not everyone would necessarily be in the physical shape to go from that to whatever this is. Like, it it does seem like it talks about taking on a nutrition plan, and that can be anything from keto to something to like the Mediterranean diet. Um, and it talks about having at least 45 minutes of moderately intense exercise uh twice a week, and one of those must be outside. There's a couple of different, depending on how hard the company is going to enforce this, there's a couple of different issues with that. Some people can't follow necessarily a nutrition plan for any variety of reasons. They might be following their own nutrition plan for diabetes or heart disease or anything else related to that. And the issue with my issue with the 45 minutes twice a week of moderately intense activity, I don't necessarily have a problem with the concept as a whole, but if this is being mandated and done by a manager, and they are selfish enough and they are not considerate of others, which it doesn't sound like this one is, then they will insist on moderate activity as they see moderate activity, not as it is moderate activity for the person involved, which can be two very different things. If the manager is someone that goes to the gym regularly, their idea of moderate level activity is going to be different than the person that is essentially a couch potato and that goes from their desk to the bathroom to their desk to the refrigerator to their desk to home. Like it's and they might sit primarily for as if their hobbies are sedentary. There's just too much, there's not enough put out that would make this safe for me to be comfortable. And then again, this also comes back to are they being paid to participate in this? But even putting that aside, we're just going to put that part of it aside while we're talking about this because there is not enough to show me that there's consideration being taken for different starting points and different activity level starting points as to what would be a moderate level activity for someone. And if we're also going to say that one of them has to be outside, it kind of depends on where you live, but that's not always possible. Like if you live in Arizona, there's just going to be some weeks where like doing a routine outside is setting you up for heat stroke. In the Pacific Northwest, if it's raining a lot, especially if this is like a cardio activity where you're expecting people to run or something, is sometimes those uh the asphalt or even the concrete used on the sidewalks can be really slick, and even when you're walking can halfway be a death trap because like okay, spoiler alert, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest and I cannot tell you that like some areas just were not planned out well, and they are, depending on where you are, it can be almost a death trap, especially when you get rain and then you get freezing temperatures, so the rain uh freezes to where it's like a sheet of ice. That's a danger. So how hard, like how strictly are they going to have people adhere to this regimen, you know?
Those ways that like companies try to enforce company culture on you as if like what I'm looking for is culture in my company instead of like
Oh my god, I actually feel that so much. Right now, I'm getting a lot of pressure to attend staff dinner that's put on by the parent association. It's not required, and I would not be paid for being there, obviously. And in all honesty, I don't want to go. I'm getting a lot of pressure from my boss, and he's essentially like ignoring that. I'm not gonna get too far into the weeds on that one. But let's just say that I'm getting a lot of pressure to the point where um some of my words are being misrepresented. I'm starting to record everything, all of my interactions now because it's been an issue. If you saw my post on the community tab, you'll have an idea of also what I'm uh doing. But like there's, especially in education, there's this whole thing about building relationships um as like the be all end all, and including with staff, but they want it to be like personal relationships, and I personally don't need personal relationships with my colleagues. I want a professional relationship, I want a cordial relationship, and I want a collaborative relationship. Those three things can be done on contract during contract hours. I don't need to see them after work or see them in situations, quite frankly, where I'm not being paid. I'm perfectly capable of having a professional and cordial relationship with my colleagues without having dinner with them or participating in the weekly Fridays after work staff get togethers. I don't want to do that on my Friday. Honestly, I don't want to do that on my Friday. And the other part of it is also, developing relationships with students, but that's its own thing. And that is like I'm actually pretty confident in my ability to develop a good rapport with my students and yeah, all that. But like I actually agree with them here. I don't want a culture in my company. I want my company to pay me and have respect for me as an employee. I don't need a family culture. I don't need this weird pressure of a culture. And I no thank you. I don't need it.
job that lets me live the life that I have or and not that even I want a job that lets me live the life that I have. Like I just want to live the life that I have. The job is the way I happen to make money. So it's just it's kind of gross because it's one of those things. It's like, let's make your job your life more in this way, and I'm like, I'm not interested in doing this stuff with these people. I'm not interested in doing it. Period. I'm not interested in doing.
Okay, in all honesty, like I have never agreed more with anyone in the fat acceptance. Like I 100% agree with him. I don't want my job to be my life. Even as a teacher, I don't want my job to be my life. I love my job and I love what I do, and sometimes if I have to work late to get stuff done, it is what it is, but I don't want my job to be my life. I don't want to attend all of the staff social events. I honestly I don't want to attend a single staff social event. I just don't want to. I don't see the need for it. If I am doing my job just fine as it is, and even if so like even if like I was having some contention with a colleague or anything over something, like I don't see how socializing with them outside of work would even really help that. Cuz my issue with them inside our work would then bleed into our social. And for those that I don't have any like issues with, our professional lives are just fine. I like compartmentalization. I like having my work life and I like having my personal life, and I don't like the two to mix. So I actually really agree with this.
Anything that has the title, the word hard in the title. Like, no.
Well, I can't agree to that because
Ah!
Okay, but that doesn't have the word hard in a title.
Station,
That's an adjective that you're
Sorry.
talking about.
I gotta go.
Okay, wait. Before we keep going, I think it might be helpful if I read some of the features of this program because it's mentioned in the response, and I think it'll help orient us a little bit. So the column writer looked up 75 Hard, and it pitches itself as a quote unquote mental toughness program. Um, yeah, and I went to the website and I checked this, and it literally has like in big letters, this is not a fitness program. 75 Hard is a transformative mental toughness program.
So for the record, I could not find that website. This is a couple years old, so it could be that it's fallen off the face of the earth. I also didn't look too terribly hard with it, but some of the like ads before I found the Cleveland Clinic article on it, some of the ads did talk about it building mental resilience. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was kind of in this this was true.
And then a little bit lower, it says, think of this as an Iron Man for your brain. So this is just like disruptive, not only physically, but also emotionally and mentally. Some of the features of it include following a diet, which includes no alcohol and no quote unquote cheat meals, working out twice a day for at least 45 minutes.
Wait, twice a day? I saw twice a week. Wait. I need to find the article again. Give me just 1 second, and then we'll probably have to end it here because I've been recording for a while, even though a portion of this, like a very large portion, is going to get cut. But I still need. I want to verify this. Oh no, she's right. I misread that. It wasn't two 45-minute workouts a week, which was fun. It was two 45-minute workouts a day. Holy shit. Yeah, no, that's intense. That's that's I think my brain was like, no, they couldn't possibly mean twice a day, every day, without rest. Oh my goodness. Like I completely missed that. That's that's crazy. That's intense, and that's incredibly unreasonable, I think, to expect an employee, especially like, are you paying me during these two 45-minute workouts? Like, don't get me wrong. I think it's important to work out for your physical health. I work out 3 times a week for about 45 minutes to an hour. And that's what's working for me right now because I also have like other areas of more casual movement, like I walk my dog for 40 minutes 5 days a week. Um and I have part of my job as a teacher, I'm on my feet a lot, and because I'm a support teacher, I'm traveling from classroom to classroom a lot. So it's very easy for me to get between 10 and 12,000 steps a day. So it's not vigorous activity, but I am on my feet and moving more. but like that's all stuff that I think is important to get movement in and everything, but 2 45-minute workouts a day, an hour and a half a day of working out that you expect me to do on my own time when I may have other things to do that day without rest, it's just insane. That's insane. No.
Drinking 4 liters of water per day, reading 10 pages of nonfiction a day, taking a 5-minute cold shower a day, and taking progress photos every day.
Progress photos, but it's not a fitness.
So definitely, yeah, the progress photos were something I didn't pay much attention to that because I was more concerned about the health risks of it. But even like hearing all of that put out, and actually she is being pretty accurate here. I think it's insane to ask employees to adhere to that 100%.
Regimen. Okay.
I'm like, thank you, Noom. I'm sorry, did like Noom create this? We're not a fucking whatever the fuck.
So I have thoughts. I do. Before I even could think about the whole diet piece of this, what my mind has really stuck with is the fact that this company does not have an HR department. None of my jobs have had HR departments. And every single one of them, I've come into an issue where having an HR department would have been very useful. So I am like, I think it's becoming a more and more common thing that a lot of us are experiencing as we're like moving through these nonprofit industrial complex jobs that are like trying to build workspaces that are, I guess culturally better, or I don't know, like more quote unquote woke within the workplace, where they're trying to introduce these sort of like restorative practices, but they're still holding on to the hierarchical, exploitative nature of a typical workforce. So it's like you want to really just find ways to exploit my labor more and not give me a way to be able to hold you accountable for the ways that you've harmed me. So I've been.
So, you know what? We're actually like it feels like we're starting to get to more of the weeds, and I need to end this like soon, and I want to talk a little bit about some fun stuff. So, we're going to go ahead and end it here. I think we got more than halfway through the let's see. No, we're actually just shy of halfway, but we're going to stop it there. Like so far I'm actually really agreeing with them. I actually want to keep hearing some opinions because right now they're not even focused too much on the weight loss aspect. It's the unreasonable ask that this is. And I actually find this very interesting and I would like to explore this some more. But in the meantime, let's talk about Manhwa. So I recently started reading The Nerd is Actually a Tyrant. This is an interesting story. Again, it's isekai. She was isekai from our world, and she was like this. She wasn't the boring one. That was a different one that we will get into. But she was isekai into this world, trying to avoid the tyrant of the novel of the book that she was reading, and uh, turns out that like she spots this boy. She doesn't realize that she's at a point where he hasn't become the adult tyrant yet, and he is actually the boy that she is interacting with. And it's this very much like she doesn't realize the potential danger she could be in. uh that one's pretty interesting. Turning the Mad Dog into a Genteel Lord is still a very entertaining read. I'm really enjoying it right now. The Empress Wants to Avoid the Emperor is another one that's kind of getting interesting, but right now there's this whole misunderstanding because she has the ability, like, she's been isekai'd into this world, and it seems like kind of as a result of that, she might be able to communicate with this world's gods. But in order to do that, she kind of has to put herself in a potentially life threatening situation. Although she doesn't really see it that way, she sees it as like I'm just trying to get in contact with them. So to everyone else, it looks like she's suicidal. So that's kind of where like there's this big misunderstanding that's forming that I would be lying if I said I didn't find it somewhat entertaining. Uh, Lips Upon the Edge of the Sword is just I part of me's like, why do I keep following this? A little bit. We're in this weird realm now where they faced off against the big bad and it seemed like she was gonna get the other upper hand and then like she attacked them, but instead of dying, they were transported into the memories of each other. And so they get to see each other, like the main couple get to see each other as they were as kids, but the memory version of the other still can recognize them within their memory. Well, it's kind of weird. Like there's a little bit happening here that's of interest, but it's interesting. Oh my god, I did not realize that this updated. This has to be the new update. Oh my god. Okay, so my husband who hates me has lost his memories has been very interesting because there's been a series of manipulations and we still don't know everything that's going on, but she's getting like at her wits end because from her perspective, she's just been emotionally jerked around for years. So that will be entertaining to read. I'm looking forward to that. So that's all from Tappy Tunes. Now, looking at tapas, I'm only reading a couple because I don't want to be spending money on a ton of different comic sites. But we have this is a fantasy of the stepmother. It's also known as Stepmother Marchen. If you're looking for like a physical copy of it, and it's this woman that raised her stepchildren, even though she was only 16 when she got not authority over them, but became their guardian, and raised them to where the oldest was an adult. Felt like they had treated her very poorly, and to the point where it through like I'm not going to get too far into it, but she was led to believe that the oldest did not want her at his wedding, which was untrue, and that's a big overarching thing that's played into it. uh and she ends up dying, so she ends up being transported back like I think it's like 5 years into the past from when her husband that she was kind of forced to marry just dies. She's 16 again, being put in charge of her stepchildren, the oldest of which is 14 at the time. So now she gets to kind of redo everything to kind of uncover who basically has had it out for her this entire time. It's interesting. I was reading it in the physical form from the library at first, but then there was such big periods of time between when I could get the novels that I kind of lost where I was, so I'm rereading it now. Because thankfully, Tapas has a like one free chapter every 24 hours, so I've been taking advantage of that. And then there's the perks of being an S class heroine, which is someone who died but bought an afterlife package, but then like the full, like the most premium afterlife package. So she gets transported into an S level ranking world where she has to try to live through the events of the story and potentially change it so she can survive. And because she had the full life package, she gets all these sorts of perks that make living through the world potentially easier, but she can buy a bunch of skills. So right now she's coming across as this child prodigy because she was put into the body of a 10-year-old girl. And she's being treated as like this child prodigy because she's able to buy a bunch of skills to like survive these certain tests and to make her life better. And so it's already changing the events of the story and we're learning a little bit as we go. It's really interesting. I do recommend it. This is Webtoons, which thankfully a lot of their stuff is free. And this is called One Husband is Enough. This was recommended to me by Mighty Kator. Uh it's very interesting. So it's this very bland Korean woman that had no real like her personality is very bland, but she was also never felt like familial love. She also never felt romantic love. Like she was very much in this life where she was ignored and not valued. And so when she's entering this simulation game that's supposed to be on this virtual reality headset, she puts her charm up to like 999, like the highest it will go. And then she essentially wakes up as the heroine, and right now it seems like she thinks that she's trapped in the video game, although to me it seems like she was isekai'd into this world. And then because her charm is so high, anyone that sees her is essentially filled with lust, obsession, and desire for her. And like to the point where she has been assaulted multiple times, sexually and otherwise. And so she has been like trying to navigate, and the only ones that don't uh succumb to her charm are other main characters in the game. So the love targets aren't um completely enamored with her when they first see her, although they do fall in love with her because she is the player character essentially. So there's just like this whole navigation. There's only 12 chapters, and we're still navigating that. And then there's also the Remarried Empress has started updating again, and it looks like the new episode dropped, and I haven't read that yet. But we're seeing Trashta's downfall, and it is delicious. And we're seeing Sylvie Shu uh like deal with the reality of everything that he's done and realized how shit he was to his former wife. And I cannot tell you guys how absolutely delicious it is to see this kind of comeuppance and the realization of what he's done. I love it. One other thing is that I've been uh gathering some different sheet music and trying to transpose and create Hellfire from Hunchback of Notre Dame as playable on the recorder. And I think I did a pretty good job. And then I went back and I modified it for the ukulele because those are the two instruments that I play. So I'm really looking forward to playing this and getting this figured out. And then once I'm able to master this song on either instrument, I'm going to record myself and I'm going to put it on my other YouTube channel. But because this is Disney, I can't sell this arrangement, either of these arrangements. So I'm going to I'm going to save them, and then I'm going to post them on a Google site I'm creating for free. Anyone can use them. But both have tabs, which I like. I think that makes it more accessible, and I'm really excited about them. And I think we're going to end it. I have one more thing to say, and that is thank you to everyone who has commented on my community post about my boss. I've been very frustrated and already reaching kind of my wits' end, and your comments has made me feel much better. I feel like I kind of have a game plan on how I'm going to deal with him going forward. I'm not going to get too like I want to talk about it, but at the same time I don't, because I don't want to put too much out there on the internet. And I don't want to make my situation too identifiable. So I'm gonna just leave it with a thank you to everyone who posted or responded to that community post. I really appreciate your advice and your comments and your encouragement and your kind of just comments on my situation, and I really appreciate you. You guys are awesome. You're amazing. Thank you so so much. And with that, I think I'm gonna end it here. If you would like me to play, because I can play these, there's a play feature on this. If you would like me to play the arrangement off here, so you guys can kind of hear what I did, uh, let me know and I'll put it in the next video. But otherwise, I'm going to end it here. Thank you so, so much for listening, for watching. I absolutely adore you guys. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.